But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither hath entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit.
Psalms chapter 17, verse 15. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. Shalom Yasharala, peace Israel. Call Halayim La, Alahayanawa, Abanawa, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham Rakakodash. All praise to our power, our Father, Yahweh, in the name Yahushai, in the name Holy Spirit. Double honor to elder apostles and elder bishops, great millstone. Peace and blessing to your hopeful elect out there. You brothers teaching his word in truth and in sincerity, okay? Yahweh Shai will make you elect like him. Yahweh Shai will make you hopeful elect out there just like him. He's gonna make you just like him, and he's gonna give you everything in due season, okay? I'm gonna read the scripture again, and then I'll get another. Just gonna read two scriptures in the Psalms. Psalms chapter 17 and verse 15 again. As for me, and this is a Psalm of David, and we know King David was an Israelite. Or should I say he is an Israelite, okay? So this verse right here is only for the Israelites, beginning with the elect. Those are part of the house of David. Because King David himself, he wrote this. Psalm 17 and 15. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness, meaning you will behold this truth, okay? This truth is the Lord's face. His image. You're looking at his face in righteousness by you understanding this truth. Okay? He opened up your mind to receive his word. You understand and believe in the true proper name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. You understand and believe in the true proper name of his beloved Son, Yahushai. You know that we're the Israelites, so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand this truth. So you're beholding his face in righteousness, meaning you're understanding these scriptures. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness, meaning when you're changed. When Yahushai returns to this earth, he's gonna quicken you. He's gonna give you life. When you receive that new body, it's like you're waking up for the first time. Totally refreshed, totally renewed, totally rejuvenated. A whole new world, a whole new life. That's how it's going to be when you receive that immortal body. You will be satisfied when you awake with his likeness, meaning you're going to be changed and you're going to be just like him. Because he is the perfect model. He is the archetype. So for you hopeful elect out there, you're being made into different versions of Yahushai. When he returns to this planet Earth, he's going to make you just like him. First, he gave you this truth. You have his truth by way of his death and resurrection, because Yahushai had to die for us to receive this truth, this word. So you're beholding his face by you looking at this word. So you see Yahushai all the time. You see Yahushai by way of this word because he is the word. He comes in the volume of the book. And the more you get into this book, the more you're becoming like his image spiritually. And when he returns to this earth, physically, you're going to be like him. Physically, you're going to be changed. And you're going to receive that new covenant. The laws, statutes, and commandments will be in your mind. You're going to be programmed to do righteousness. Okay? You will have the laws, statutes, and commandments downloaded within your brain. You're going to be satisfied when you awake with his likeness, meaning when he returns, he's going to beam you up, deliver you, and you're going to be just like him. And he's going to give you everything. He will give you everything, man, because he himself received everything. Now, this is Psalms chapter 16, beginning verse 9. Therefore, my heart is glad. And this is Yahweh Shai speaking in the spirit. Now, these are Psalms written by our beloved King David. But a lot of these Psalms, you hear Yahweh Shai in the spirit. Therefore, my heart is glad and my glory rejoiceth. Talking about Yahweh Shai. Because he knew that he was going to be resurrected after his crucifixion.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kapadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Pushing to get up out of there. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, and this morning, it's a lot to get into, morning news and prophecy. So we're gonna do a World War III update. All right, the West, was on the move. Okay, and what we have to understand, dealing with war. All right, you have, all right, a lot of moves being made for a lot of different reasons. So what we want to do, yesterday was, kind of hectic. A lot going on, a lot of information coming out. And the day after, when more facts come out, when the dust settle a little bit, we can go in and break these things down, sort things out, and get a perspective, okay, of where we at in the scriptures, where we at biblically, man, and what's happening, man. Okay, because one aspect we have to understand, dealing with Venezuela, those are Israelites. Okay, those are a nation of people under the curses. Okay, so you look at the aspect of, Russia and China didn't help. Well, they weren't supposed to help. Okay, the Lord said, "No man shall redeem us." Okay, so it was the Lord ultimately that made them stand down. Okay, and we're going to get into, some details of what happened. We're going to go into some history. We're going to go into some things, and Lord will, it makes sense because I know it's a lot of information coming out. It's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. Okay, so we're going to, Lord will, through the Spirit, we can simplify some things and get some understanding of what's happening in the scriptures. Now, one thing we can't lose sight of is the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, because certain things happen and then you look at the reaction, and it kind of can, throw you off, because you look at it like, damn, these niggas, man, these niggas got one, okay, dealing with America. Well, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. It's playing out exactly how the Lord wants it to play out, okay? Because when you go into scripture, let's go here. Let's get this in the book of Jeremiah 49. Okay, it's the book of Jeremiah 49 and 14. Says, I have heard a message from the Lord that an ambassador was sent to the nations to say, form a coalition against Edom and prepare for battle. So what America did, dealing with this whole thing in Venezuela, they just put these nations on notice, man. Okay, these nations know what they got to do when it comes to America, man. All right, and taking down Venezuela, it was strategic. All right, it was a tactical victory for America. Okay, but it was more symbolic than anything. All right, now it's going to be certain ripple effects, economically, with America getting in control of that much oil, but also what it's doing is putting the pressure on the east, okay, to begin to be more aggressive because America don't play fair. See, you have, Iran, China, and Russia. They move with some type of integrity, some type of dignity. They stay within the bounds of, the international law concerning war. America don't. They do what the hell they want to do. All right. What America did, okay, um, a day and a half ago, they supposed to get approved by Congress to do that. To attack another sovereign nation, they were supposed to go through Congress, okay? But they didn't because America do what they want to do. The small hats, they do what they want to do, okay? And what's being shown, all right, to mainly Russia, Iran, and China is look, we can't play by these rules. We can't put these restrictions on ourselves, you know, because the West don't play fair. You see? And no one's gonna hold them accountable. Okay? So what we're seeing happening is the Lord increasing the tempo. Okay, he put something on the mind of these nations in the east. He's rousing them up. Okay, to do what they need to do on their end. Okay, matter of fact, before I do that, I meant to read 13 first. All right, because when you read Jeremiah 49:13, it said, "For I have sworn by my own name, says the Lord, that Basra will become an object of horror and a heap of ruins. It will be mocked and cursed. All of its towns and villages will be desolate forever." And this is the Lord promising, all right, on himself that he's going to destroy America, man. Okay? So we always got to be anchored down with prophecy and the will and the agenda of Yahweh Bashim Shah, you know, because you get caught up in the news and the reactions and people just, cheering and celebrating like this is just some great thing that happened. Nah, it's just a small part within the algorithm that the Most High has set up to turn America into a desert. Okay? It might look like a victory and the way people reacting, you could be like, God damn. Nah, man, this is all in line with what the Lord, all right, wants for his agenda to come to pass. Okay. So the Lord promised that he was going to destroy America and turn it to a desert. So we got to be anchored in it, no matter what it looked like on the surface, man. Because if you don't understand these things, it's like, damn, it's cast doubt. But now, man, everything is happening exactly how it's supposed to happen according to prophecy, man. All right. Now, like we just read verse 14, okay? Because we read 13, that's the end result. That's the purpose of the Lord. Okay, but then when you get to 14, it goes into the buildup, okay, of that purpose happening. America being the desert, America being completely desolate. Okay, so you start at 14 and goes into the build up to that point. It says, I have heard a message from the Lord that an ambassador was sent to the nations to say, form a coalition against Edom and prepare for battle. Okay, the Lord says to Edom, I will cut you down to size among the nations. You will be despised by all, man. Okay, so the Lord is breaking this place down, man. He's cutting this place down to size. Okay. And what we have to understand, all right, them taking down Venezuela, okay, the Venezuelan government, that's not no major feat for the American military. Okay. And that's not nothing new. That's another thing we're going to go into. Like them taking down the Venezuelan government, America been doing this since the 60s in Central and South America. This ain't nothing new. You just got the internet now. You just got social media now. Okay. But this ain't nothing new. Okay. And this ain't this was a little force of power, but if you understand warfare, all right, this don't determine the outcome on the battlefield, them taking down Venezuela. Okay. If they was to meet up and lock up with China and Russia and Iran today, taking down Venezuela won't determine the outcome on the battlefield. All right. It was a strategic move, it was political, it was a tactical victory. Okay. But as far as determining the outcome on the battlefield, that has no sway. Okay, so what we're seeing is America's being cut down to size by Yahweh Bashim al Shai. Okay, and how is the Lord doing it? Because these nations, all right, when you go into Iran, mainly Iran, China, and Russia, okay, their military is equipped, okay, to go to war, all right, with the American military machine. Okay, you see the things that America did to Venezuela, they can't do that. They can't go to China and do that. They can't go to Russia and do that. They can't go to Iran and do what they did to Venezuela. Okay, because they have a military, okay, machine that was designed just to go against America, man. And that's how the Lord is cutting America down to size. Okay, so the way that America is used to, all right, deploying all these troops, pouring all these troops into a region. Well, they can't do that like they used to anymore. Okay? The way that they just used to be able to do airstrikes with no resistance. They can't do that anymore with these nations over there in the east. Now they can do that with these nations in the Western Hemisphere, because no nation in the Western Hemisphere can do nothing with America. And that's mainly Central South America. Okay? Mexico, all right, the tribes, which they're giving over to this man. These are the tribes. So no matter that these tribes have their own country, they're still the Israelites in captivity. Okay, so they can't do nothing with Esau either. Okay, but when this devil starts going to the east, because that's another thing too. You hear people boast about, you know, when America do one thing, everybody just go crazy like, oh, America's the best. You can't nobody do America this, America that, but nobody talk about America losses, man. Okay, see, they play bully in the West, all right, but lately in the East, they ain't been able to do that. Okay, no one was giving the Houthi rebels credit when they ran the American Navy out of the Red Sea, when they shot their ass out the Red Sea. No one is talking about that and hooping and hollering about that. Okay, when Iran, okay, was turning Tel Aviv, okay, into a cardboard box in that 12-day war, nobody is hooping and hollering about that. But when America do one thing, it's like, oh man, it's the best ever, the greatest. It's like, well, goddamn, you know. So that's another thing too with the media. They hype up, America, victories, but then they downplay everything else. Okay, so America, they gonna be the bully in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, but when they go across the Atlantic, they not as big as a bully as they used to be. They've been cut down to size. Okay, and it's gonna continue to be cut down to size. Okay, so let's let's keep going here. It says, the Lord says to Edom, I will cut you down to size among the nations. You will be despised by all. And another thing, when America, okay, wanted to do strikes on Iran to help those small hats, they had to park them aircraft carriers in India, all right, to get out of the range of those Iranian missiles. Okay, show you the respect that they have for Iran. See, with Venezuela, they can just pull up. They just had aircraft carriers sitting on the dock. Let's say you live on a coastal, you know, town in Venezuela. All right, you just wake up and it's an aircraft carrier just on the dock chilling. Okay, they can't do that with Iran. They can't do that with Russia. Okay, when America wanted to bomb Iran, America had to park in India. You know, so like I say, it's different over there. You see, but they can beat their chest over here with, the northern tribes, pummeling on the northern tribes, man. You know, which is America. The Lord gave these niggas the sword. Okay, but we know, like, if you really follow this, man, that sword declining. Okay, you see these nations, all right, have closed that gap. It says Jeremiah 49:16 says, you have been deceived, all right, by the fear you inspire in others and by your own pride. See, America is deceived by the fear that they inspire in others, okay, which has made this man proud, okay. And then even with this Venezuela thing, we're gonna get into the details of what really went on, okay, to show you that look, man, this man, he like I say, America has been a dominant military for a while, all right, but the Lord got it to where these nations have closed the gap. All right, and what we're seeing is just a symbolic power being shown. Okay, is America able? Is America capable of doing a lot of damage to any nation on the planet Earth? Absolutely. Okay, but are they going to be able to take on all these nations that's going to come against them? Hell no. Okay, it's going to be a terrible defeat. Okay, it says you have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others and by your own pride, man. Okay, and see, Esau gonna take that shit that he doing over here in the Western Hemisphere, and when he take that shit over there to the East, that shit not gonna work. It's gonna go bad, real bad. Okay, and it says you live in a rock fortress and control the mountain heights. Okay, but even if you make your nest among the peaks with the eagles, I will bring you crashing down, says the Lord Yahweh Bashemal Shah. And this devil has weapons in the atmosphere. He has this, immaculate air force. Okay, but guess what? These nations, all right, have, military hardware just for that. It's customized. The Earth's military, majority of the Earth's military is customized just for the American military to combat the American military, man. Okay. You see, so these devils, they have exalted themselves. They're used to having air superiority. Okay, but what we finna see is everything that America used to do to dominate wars. All right, it's not gonna work over there, man. Okay, and it says Edom will be an object of horror. All who pass by will be appalled and will gasp at the destruction they see there, man. That's gonna be a thing to awe at. The end result of America. That's gonna be a thing to be held in awe. All right, you know, going to get the Venezuela president. That's not a thing at all. Okay, when the Lord turned this bitch to a desert, that's going to be the thing to awe it. Okay, it says it will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighboring town, said the Lord Yahweh by Shema Shai. No one will live there, no one will inhabit it. Okay, so the Lord gonna empty this bitch out. Okay, so we always got to be anchored by that. No matter what we see happening, no matter what it looked like and the reaction that people are having, the Lord gonna empty this bitch out, man. Point blank period. Okay. So let's go from there. I want to go to now. Let's see. I want to get this video here. All right. And he's going to go into detail about what really happened. Okay.
Maybe we can get to some of the press conference because I went over the initial announcements as well as the initial response from the Venezuelan government, the defense minister. But here, how about this? I think this is really telling, and then you can react and give your take on what's happened, a rundown of what's happened. Here is one of Donald Trump's comments at the press conference.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
So, Mark, the United States is going to run the country now that Nicolas Maduro has been kidnapped and taken out of the country. As you're talking, I'll put up a little scene of the bombing that happened in Caracas and a few other parts of the country. But to you, your reaction, your analysis of what just happened.
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about what the possible scenarios for U.S. regime change in Venezuela would be like before. And unfortunately, it appears that however much hate I got from people for saying so, that's exactly what happened. Over the last few months, the CIA has quite obviously co-opted the majority of the Venezuelan government and military. There was no resistance. There was no military resistance to this U.S. kidnapping of Maduro whatsoever. There was no air defense fired. There was no aircraft put into the air. The country is supposedly awash with Russian-provided man-pads, which would have easily been able to shoot down approaching, slow-moving Chinook helicopters. None of that happened. It appears that Maduro was not even informed.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44. That
The U.S. was attacking his country. He was caught literally in his pajamas. So the CIA has done what they have done so effectively in Syria, although almost certainly there they did it in cooperation with Turkish intelligence and Mossad. Actually in Libya, when at the end, when the Tripoli commander of the defense of Tripoli simply ordered his troops to stand down and brought in the invading jihadis and the Qatari special forces that were involved. And actually in Iraq in 2003, when a good portion of the Iraqi military was actually stood down as well. They co-opted, they bribed, they blackmailed, they threatened, they did whatever was necessary with each individual person in the Venezuelan government and military that was necessary in order to get the Venezuelan, apparatus to stand down. And it was extremely effective, as we just saw. This is exactly what happened in Syria. And I know people were very active in the comments, not only on your show, but others, whenever I tried to tell them that this was the most likely regime change scenario, that I didn't understand Venezuela and the Venezuelan military would fight to the end because they believed in the Bolivarian revolution and all of this well-meaning ideological blinders. But human nature is what it is. And as humans, we are often weak and venal creatures. And that was proven once again in Venezuela. And it is quite obvious that the vice president, the minister of defense are completely part of this process. The Trump, at least in the course of that press conference, indicated that Marco Rubio, whom almost certainly will be his consul for the governance of the new Venezuelan colony or renewed Venezuelan colony, spoke with the Venezuelan vice president and that she will be cooperating with him. I would expect that we will see an announcement of a transitional government in a very short period of time. That will consist of remnants of this traitorous regime and elements of the pro-American liberal opposition, Maria Machado or whoever else they wish to bring in. there is a very large comprador class in Venezuela of the middle class and oligarchs that have never accepted the leftist revolutions of the last 2 decades, and they will be brought in to run the country. And just for the icing on the cake, they blew up Hugo Chavez's corpse.
Right, the mausoleum. Right. Yep.
So basically, what you have to understand, all right, is the Venezuelan military, okay, members of the government, they was co-op, okay. So the CIA has been down there, okay, putting this plan together, okay, and getting certain members of Venezuela's government, military personnel, the heads, okay, because when you co-op, that means that you make, all right, that they made people within the Venezuelan government and within the Venezuelan military a part of the overall operation, which was to extrapolate Maduro. Okay, so you listen to and you look at how it happened. You know how quick it happened, how smooth it happened within a couple of hours. Well, now it makes sense that these people were brought. To sum it up, the American government brought the Venezuelan government, and they brought out certain military personnel to make, all right, Venezuelan government stand down, the military stand down. They didn't do nothing, okay, because yesterday I was under the impression that, you know, it was on some movie type shit, you know, to where, you know, the Delta Force just went in sniping niggas, you know, 10 Delta Force members just went in and, you know, killed thousands of the Venezuelan military and killed the bodyguards of Maduro and, you know, blew up the steel door, okay, and went and got this nigga and made it back to shot their way back to the helicopter. Okay. No, they stood down. Okay. The CIA, all right, infiltrated, okay, the Venezuelan government, the Venezuelan military, and they stood down. They gave Maduro to the US. Okay. That's how they played yesterday. Okay. So America beating their chest like they just this, like there was some superhero shit went down yesterday. Then they gave Maduro on the silver platter, okay, to the U.S. government, okay, for regime change. You see, because you have to understand, some members of government, they like, look, we don't want to get caught in a war. You know what I'm saying? We in the Western Hemisphere, China and Russia way over there, like we gotta, you know. So you have certain members that are easily persuaded, and then, like he said, they threaten, they blackmail, they did whatever they had to do, okay, to get the right people to sell out, to pull off the coup. Okay, so we gotta look at these things in perspective, man. All right, so let's let play a little more.
Absolutely despicable and deplorable, but nothing that should shock anyone who's been following the U.S. empire since the beginning. But especially even under just this administration, the Trump administration has shown not afraid to bomb, not afraid to, and he even said in his press conference, not afraid to even put troops on the ground, which at this point may be a likely scenario given the issues that they might run into. But I wanted to play this, Mark, and you can comment on it. Here is more of Donald Trump's press conference.
Long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world.
And I got a lesson, Lord will, tonight, dealing with what that means when he says American oil companies are going to come in, okay, and take over, the oil infrastructure in Venezuela. Okay. And see, the people of Venezuela, all right, America finna turn it into a plantation. Okay, so Lord will, we can get into that tonight. All right, because this is what these devils do. Okay, Venezuela just one of many when it comes to America and how they get down. Okay, we're gonna go through, a little history dealing with Central South America, man. And the American government. Okay, and also Russia, which was then known as the USSR. Okay, so let's let it play some more.
Go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so.
And I want to emphasize that last point, Mark. We will, first of all, the oil, of course, definitely comment on this because this has been at most people who follow this anywhere near astutely talk about Venezuela's oil as being a big factor why regime change was so much on the table for the U.S. But a second strike if necessary. I don't think this is over by any stretch, given the fact that the U.S. doesn't really have any military forces to subdue the Venezuelan people right now. What do you see as coming down the pike?
I don't think it will be necessary. The Venezuelan military already chose not to act against the United States.
And comment on anything else in that video.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, first off the bat, his commenting about, Venezuela could have been pumping much more. Sure, they could have if they weren't under U.S. sanctions for the last 2 decades that deliberately did everything they could to.
And that's another thing, that America does too, is they put these heavy sanctions on these different countries, all right, and they let, these economies collapse and spiral out of control. And then they turn the cameras on and saying, this is a bad leader. This is a bad government. Okay. Any government that's not pro-West, that doesn't allow these Western corporations to come in and suck the resources dry, all right, pollute the land, take farmland from the people, okay, make this country into a workshop for these major corporations with these low wages and dangerous jobs, okay, then that government is a bad government. Okay. If you don't want the American corporation to come in and exploit, okay, your resources, okay, pollute the local environment, okay, then you are an inhumane government. That's what America does throughout the earth. Okay. And see, a lot of people, the people don't know because they, once you're starving, okay, you just look for somebody to blame. Okay, so it's easy to start eternal strife. It's easy to get people to sell out. Whenever the money is low. Okay, and they're trying this same play with Iran. Okay, that's why you keep pushing the protest and regime change in Iran. Okay, but this is just a tactic. Okay, of America, man. These Western governments, as a whole, but mainly America is always in the center of it. Okay.
Suppress, the Venezuelan economy, and including its oil production as well. So, I mean, that's the again, as in Syria, U.S. sanctions had a hollowing out effect. I saw recent reports in the on the internet. I can't speak to the actual veracity of it, but that the average salary of a Venezuelan military personnel was $100 a month, which was exactly 1/5 of what was needed to sustain an average Venezuelan household. And when you have a military that is that poorly paid, it is very, very easily to co-opt it. And that is what happened in Syria when the country was hollowed out under several years of U.S. sanctions, and it has happened in Venezuela. Now, there may be a governance problem long term, because there certainly are a large number of the Venezuelan people, particularly from the lower classes or lower classes, under the previous regime before the Bolivarian Revolution, the working class people that do and that have inculcated, Bolivarian leftist values, and eventually some type of resistance might form. There might be guerrilla conflicts. There might be civil conflict in Venezuela's future. But one should not expect the Venezuelan military, as it exists now, to be a source of resistance, because quite obviously they rolled over and allowed the U.S. to just waltz into the country, blow up the air defense, the Bukes, the S-300s, the other air defense that Venezuela had, without firing it, without contesting it all. I mean, we saw helicopters firing on air defense emplacements, which is just absurd. I mean, it's the other way around. Helicopters are very vulnerable to air defense. They allowed the U.S. to simply waltz into their country on slow-moving helicopters, fly to wherever.
Can I just interrupt you 1 second too, Mark? I mean, helicopters are also vulnerable to just small firepower. So
even small arms,
the small arms, Vietnamese, we saw Vietnamese, Chinese, the Korean War. We've seen helicopters be downed in much far-flung periods of history, much less advanced than technology is even now. So yeah, a lot of information yet to be known, but continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Maduro was evidently in the habit of moving around. Right, this much has been put out in the U.S. media, and that seems sensible and very likely. At least according to Donald Trump, the home that he was staying in had a safe house with a very thick steel safe house in it. When the Americans came for him, he was obviously not even aware that his country was being attacked. He was still in his pajamas, and he had not entered said safe house. So it is quite obvious that those closest around him, kept him blind and turned him over to the Americans. There was earlier reports on Sky and Fox News, them what they are, but that this was a negotiated handover, and that seems very likely at this point. That seems that this is what has happened.
Yeah, man. So going back, like he said, a negotiated handover. Now, they had air defense in Venezuela, but not one of them was fired. Okay, because you can be like, okay, well, why didn't Russia and China do this or do that? Well, nigga, if you don't fight for you, why would I come fight for you? That would be super stupid for Russia and China to get involved, to come away from Moscow and Beijing when you not fighting for you. Okay? Because it was a negotiated handover. You see? So that's why, in Western media, when they tell a story, they report it be all glamorized and exaggerated. But then when you get into the details, and then like, okay. All right. And this is war. This is not a bar fight. Okay. Russia and China and Iran, they can live without Venezuela. They're going to be all right. But this does put pressure on them. Okay. To understand that, okay, because they took away a lot of oil off the board. Okay, that they had access to. So that does put pressure on them to tighten their ass up, man. Okay, and do what they need to do. So you best believe, they're all right. The spirit of prophecy got them tapped into what they need to do. Okay, because they can't just afford to sit back. All right, but Venezuela falling to America. All right, they can live without it. This is war. This is Venezuela was a pawn. They tried something, it failed. Okay, and now they got because they got to go with what the Lord wants to do. Okay, so I want to go here just a little more, and then I want to go into something I pulled up on the chat. All right, I'll say them niggas didn't do nothing. Okay,
Statements from the vice president and from the defense minister, both, who obviously did absolutely nothing during this entire ordeal of the kidnapping of Chavez and the standing down of the Venezuelan military. I mean, they're obviously both part of the co-option, right? And I think it's obvious that the majority of the Venezuelan government and military were part of it, because there was no actions from any brand. The security services did nothing. The police did nothing. The military did nothing. No one did anything. I mean, I at least heard reports that the U.S. even fired on the National Assembly, the Venezuelan parliament, and there has been no action against, after that. So I think that they have taken.
Nobody did nothing. Police force, security, his bodyguards, nobody did nothing. And Trump was bragging, "Oh, no one was hurt yesterday." Duh, nigga, nobody did nothing. Okay, no one was hurt. We lost no Americans. Yeah, because nobody did nothing. It was a negotiated handover. Okay. So let's go from there. All right. Let's go into the history, because there's one thing we have to understand. This is nothing new. It's just new to a lot of people. All right. But when you go into um yep. So let's go here. So I said list of conflicts between America and Russia in Central and South America, list of American-backed regime changes in Central and South America. All right. So it says below is a clear factual overview. Okay. It says conflicts between US and Russia with Soviet Union in Central and South America. These were Cold War proxy conflicts. The US and Soviet Union did not fight directly, but supported opposing sides. Cuba. Cuba Revolution, 1953 to 1959. Cuba aligned with the Soviet Union after Fidel Castro took power. You had the Bay of Pigs in 1961. U.S.-backed Cuban exiles, okay, attempted to overthrow Castro, all right, and then Castro beat the brakes off America. That's another thing. Talk about that. All right. When Fidel Castro, the Bay of Pigs, our brothers looked that up. Okay. And they tried that invasion on the beach. Okay. In Cuba. All right. And took an L. Okay. Got their beat back on them boats, man. Okay. The Cuban Missile Crisis, USSR placed nuclear missiles in Cuba. All right. Closest moment to nuclear war. Ongoing Cold War rivalry. USSR provided military, economic, and intelligence support to Cuba because Cuba fought. And see, Cuba didn't sell out. They fought. Now, can Cuba go head to head with the American military? Absolutely not. Okay, but when it came to defending their leader Castro, they fought and they beat America back. Now, America, devastated Cuba with embargoes, okay, and sanctions. But guess what? Even in the 70s, the lifespan of and because you go into their history, Castro had free health care for Cuba, okay, and then the lifespan of of Cubans in the 70s was longer than the lifespan of people in America. Under the American sanctions and embargoes, life expectancy in Cuba was higher than life expectancy in America, and they had free healthcare under Castro. Okay, because when Castro took U.S. military personnel hostage, okay, which was an embarrassment to the American military, all right, he ransomed them American military personnel, all right, back to America for $50 million, and he took that $50 million and put it into the Cuban healthcare. Okay, but all you see about Castro is he's just this evil tyrant. Okay, Esau be lying, man. Now, are these niggas squeaky clean? These guys squeaky clean? There's leaders, okay, of these other countries. Absolutely not. Okay, but a lot of times they be doing the best that they can with the poor economy that they have because of American sanctions, man. You got to go through American banking systems. Okay, no matter how much resources you got, if America doesn't allow you to operate within their banking systems, then your economy is going to suffer. And in order to participate in Americans' banking systems, you have to allow these Western corporations to come to your country, set up these these factories, okay, set up, all right, this what you call these industrial, okay, cities, to where they extrapolate the resources, take all the profit for them, pollute the local places, okay, and pay the people pennies. Okay, so these leaders be in a lose-lose situation, and people look at it like, well, they should have did it. How? With what? Because they damn if they do, they damn if they don't. So you have some like, well, look, I'm gonna just go out on my shield and fight these niggas, man. Okay, and some roll over like we just seen with Venezuela. Okay, so it ain't just as easy, simple as they try to put it on Fox News, man. Okay, they don't know what the hell they be talking about, man, and the nigga just paid the lie. All right, so then you got Nicaragua. Okay, and this is where when I don't know if you brothers, some of you sisters watch Snowfall. Okay, but this is their war they was talking about during Snowfall, when the CIA had Jake selling cocaine to fund this war. Okay, so it says you had Nicaragua. It says Sandinista Revolution and Contra War, 1979 to 1990. It says Sandinistas supported by USSR Cuba, funded and armed by the U.S., one of the clearest U.S.-Soviet proxy wars in Latin America. El Salvador, Salvadoran Civil War, 1980 to 1992. Leftist guerrillas, backed indirectly by USSR and Cuba, government heavily supported by the U.S. All right, so you had El Salvador, Guatemala, okay, and the Guatemala, Grenada, the U.S. invasion of Grenada, okay, Chile, okay. So this is nothing new. Venezuela is just the latest. All right, America and Russia, they've been having proxy wars, all right, in Central and South America, man. All right, Venezuela is just the latest. It says American-backed regime changes in Central and South America. All right, it says Guatemala said the CIA-backed coup removed Jacobo Arbenez in 1954. Cuba support for Batista before the revolution, failed attempts to overthrow Castro after 1959. Dominican Republic, U.S. military intervention to prevent a leftist government from taking power. That was in 1965. Brazil, 1964. U.S. supported military coup against President João Goulart, led to long military dictatorship. Chile, 1973. U.S. backed efforts leading to overthrow, all right, the Salvador Allende, all right, military regime under Augusto Pinochet followed, man. So here it is, they'll overthrow these certain leaders and install a military dictatorship. Okay, well, they put it up on the news like they just care so much about the people. Trump said that, oh, we're going to make the country so much money. They never done that, man. They never went in and extrapolated them resources and invested back into the country where they got the resources from, man. And remember, these are the tribes. These are all tribes. These are Northern Kingdom, okay? Powerless people under the curses. Okay, now there's a remnant amongst all this that's going to be good, but you have to remember this is a people that's under the curses, man. And the majority of them are still into idolatry, Roman Catholicism. So this is why Esau is able to have his way down there, man. You know, it says U.S. supported coup after leftist government, Bolivia 1971, Uruguay 1973. U.S. supported security forces leading to authoritarian rule. Argentina in 1976, U.S. supported military junta during the Cold War. All right. Nicaragua, 1980s. Panama, 1989. U.S. invasion. They kidnapped this guy, Manuel Noriega, okay, from power. Honduras, 2009. Okay. U.S. indirectly supported the post-coup government after President Zelaya was removed. Okay. So this is nothing new what we're seeing happen in Venezuela. All right. And Russia and America have been, you know, um, rumbling around in Central and South America since the 60s, man. Late 50s, you know, early 60s. You see? So, um, and what we're seeing is typical for an empire that's in decline, for them to become aggressive. All right, let's get a few examples of that. Okay, was that in the same? All right, it says why empires may grow aggressive during decline. It says as powers erodes, leaders may try to reassert control over, all right, restive regions. Okay, and you go into that word restive. Okay, so you go into the word restive. Okay, it says restive is someone that's unable to keep still or silent or becoming increasingly difficult to control. Okay, especially because of impatience or dissatisfaction. All right, and these nations are fed up with the rule of the West, man. Okay, so they're getting harder to. It's harder for America to project itself. Okay, so you're going to see more aggressive moves. You're going to see probably more bullying. You know what I'm saying? Nigeria, like, what are you doing? You know, airstrike in Nigeria. All right, which Nigeria is mainly Jake. You see, and these devils know that. Okay, so keep going and say try to reassert control over rest of regions, launch wars to restore prestige or legitimacy, use external conflict to distract from eternal problems, act preeminently out of fear of rivals. Okay, so this is all the behavior of empire on decline. Okay, because things like this, because see, people are just crying for the last 3 months of 2025 about how hard it is, boycotting Christmas, this and that. But now they're rallying around the American flag again. Okay, so this that's a part of it too, because there's many things, there's many reasons why they're doing this, man. Okay, but ultimately, to simplify, it's the decline of empire. It said this can lead to riskier, harsher, or more frequent military actions. It said examples of aggression during decline: Roman Empire, late empires, Rome weakened. Okay, it increased military repression, fought constant frontier wars, and this is the Western Roman Empire, conducted brutal internal crackdowns. Emperors relied heavily, all right, on force to hold territory already slipping away. More militarized governance, but diminishing return. Okay, the British Empire, early 20th century, as decline began after World War One, harsh suppression of rebellions, Ireland, India, Kenya, Palestine, military interventions, all right, to protect trade routes and prestige. Britain fought harder to keep control even as resources dwindled, tactical victories, strategic decline. And that was a thing for America to get some prestige, because that was looking real embarrassing that you had, China, Iran, and Moscow dealing in the Western Hemisphere they're heavy, you know. So that was a thing that was a political statement that had to be made above all. Okay, that was a showing of strength. You see, so they, did what they had to do, brought out, the Venezuelan government brought out the military personnel they need to buy out. Okay, and got that negotiated handover Maduro, and there was a show of strength. You see all the bombing, and there were theatrics, man. Okay, all there was theatrics, man, for a showcase of power. Okay, because it's a declining empire. Okay, and it says Ottoman Empire, known as the sick man of Europe, responded to decline with aggressive campaigns in the Balkans, violent repression of separatist movements, attempted reform backed by military force. Okay, increased violence, accelerated fragmentation. Japan, Nazi Germany. You see, so this is all the symptoms, okay, of an empire that's in decline, of this devil, okay, lashing out. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go here to Isaiah. Okay. So you go here to Isaiah 13. Okay, and it reads that the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. It said, lift you up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt a voice unto them, shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. Okay, and the Lord has the prophets shaking the hand, okay, in the gates of the nobles, man. Prophesying this man's downfall. Okay, so what we're seeing this man doing, he's trying to uphold his kingdom. Okay, so he has to exert the sword. All right, then he's trying to transition to a digital empire. A digital system that gives him more control. So this is an attempt for the devil to hang on to control. It all plays together, man. What he's doing with the technocracy, what he's doing with his military, is all an attempt, all right, to double down on his control in the earth, man. Okay, but we telling him it's gonna fail. Okay, he's finna go into captivity, man. Okay, it says, I have commanded my sanctified ones, all right, the prophets, and I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, the angels, even them that rejoice in my highness. Okay, so the Lord is getting ready to intervene in the affairs of the earth in a major way. Okay, and all this ruckus and the Esau, all this dust he's kicking up, he's going to be stopped in the tracks, man. Okay, verse 4 said, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of the nations gathered together. The Lord of the hosts mustered, all right, the Lord of hosts mustered the host of the battle. So it's the heavenly Father that's mustering the host of the battle. Okay, and this noise of the multitude in the mountains, okay, like as a great people, those are the missiles, man. Okay, because all everything that's happening is leading to these nations saying the hell with America. They just gonna send everything they got over here, man. Okay, that's the end game, and the Lord is mustering the host of the battle, man. He's getting these nations' mind prepared. Okay, it said they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And it's the whole land of America, man. All right, and those missiles coming from all these different nations to turn this place to a desert. Okay, the Lord gonna stop playing. He gonna put the spirit on these nations, stop playing with America, man. All right, and desert this bitch out, you know. So that's pretty much the point. Just want to go into that. If y'all brothers and sisters have any questions about what's going on, what's happening, feel free, to leave them on the comment board. And Abaratazar, we can get into it, man. We'll just try to sum up, the events of, yesterday, and we still gonna be looking for the ripple effect, the fallout, see what happens. Okay. But more than likely, they finna install a puppet government. Okay, and Venezuela is going to be, all right, American colony. Okay, there's more than likely what's going to happen. Okay, the resistance is over. Them niggas didn't do nothing the other night. They never gonna do nothing. Okay, so uh yeah, that's the point. Like I say, we just keep track, see how things play out. And like I said, I'm not impressed. America going and getting Maduro. Nigga, I'm not impressed. Nigga, go get Putin. Go get Xi Jinping. Okay? Go get the president of Iran. You see? Go get one of them. Then I'll be impressed. Yeah, I'm not impressed with America. All right, going down there and get Maduro. All right? Like I say, go over there to the east and do that with China, Russia, and Iran. So Lord will, you brothers and you sisters edified. Till next time, I'll say Shalom. Going Mashallah, Abba, Abba, soon, Shalom.